I'll call it. Hey, everybody, welcome to Freddy Live. Today, I have my guest, Maz from Mercedes-Benz Downtown Calgary. Maz, thank you so much for joining us today. And you're not just a wonderful car guy with great experience, but in the past few years, you have absolutely blown up on YouTube. Can you introduce yourself to everybody who's following along? Explain your background in the car business. Up until just a few years ago, you were no different than any other general manager in the business, correct?
Well, thanks for having me, John, and happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, our story is that we are one of 3 Mercedes-Benz dealers in Calgary, Alberta, and it's a relatively small market to have 3 Mercedes-Benz dealers. Those decisions were not made by us per se, but it makes it for quite a bit more competitive as a result. And so in order to stand out, you can buy a Mercedes-Benz from any one of those 3 dealers. You have to have a unique selling proposition. And so we went away from the traditional marketing style of billboards, which to this day, I've never understood it. From as early as I could get into the business. And even when I was on the sales floor, I was like, why do they spend so much money on these billboards? And then when I got into management, I figured out how much they were spending on them, and my mind just...
They are not cheap.
No, ridiculous. And I mean, I don't even know what purpose they serve because they've never done anything for me. Print ads were absolutely, ridiculous, to the point that, they were giving away print ads in order to sell you digital. That's how worthless it was. And people were, these old school car guys would just be like, oh yeah, that's a good deal. They gave us all this print. Well, when they're giving you something away, it's like the toy in the Cracker Jack box. It's probably not worth very much, and the kid's going to lose it in the first 5 minutes. Like it's not going to really do anything. It might be a hook because you're getting something for free, but if it's free to them, it's free. If it's free to you, that means it's free to them. It means it's absolutely worthless to the consumer. So
I think a premise or a shared concept that, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. You said there's 3 Mercedes stores pretty close to each other. So therefore, you had to become different and innovative to stand out because the market may or may not need that many stores. So Russ Flips Whips, who's a good buddy of mine, business partner, all these things. Russ was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I think that he said they have 7 Lincoln stores. So it was like the battle of the Pittsburgh Beltway to sell a new Lincoln. I mean, selling a new Lincoln's hard enough as it is, but then God forbid you have 7 other ones around you. So Russ had to get really creative, and I wonder if all these social media stars rise out of people who are like forced creativity is thrust upon them. Like you have to figure out a different way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, in that scenario that you just described, they'd have to have Matthew McConaughey like move into one of the actual into their store before they could get the traction that they're looking for. That's an insane situation for 7 of them. I mean, we're 3 in this market, and the thing about Calgary is it's got a great infrastructure, so everything's 20 minutes apart from one another, or less. So you really have to stand out because I got to give you a reason to buy your black E-Class from here, because the other 2 stores have a black E-Class to sell you as well. And so we shifted away from traditional marketing. A couple of things we did. We started with our Instagram, where we kind of broke the mold and went away from the seriousness that, goes around, that basically circles the Mercedes-Benz world and other luxury brands. And we focus on a little more satire. We had like a really big breakout video a few years ago with, we made it look like a drug deal was going down between Easter bunnies and the chicken between a Maybach.
Okay, so read me into the risk calculation of doing satire with a luxury brand, because rich people laugh too. So how do you kind of walk that fine line?
I look at it from a perspective of, I'm at all these different events, I'm at all these different dinners and parties, and there's a lot of very affluent and successful people that I deal with all the time. And we have conversations, and I'll crack a joke about things. Sometimes I'll say some things that are off color, and it's really, really funny. And next thing you know, they're inviting me to the next event because they enjoy that stuff. And I'm enjoying their company the same way. So why wouldn't I want to bring that to the surface? Why do we have to make it so serious? Because the reality is if you keep it too serious, it's not fun. People are just going to scroll back by. Like nobody wants to see, you know, a CLA driving through the snow doing nothing, and you know, Christmas bells
Right.
and reindeer. It's boring. Like it has to have some sort of.
I was watching the Natty last night, Miami, Indiana, and I was watching the car commercials, and I was like, "God, this is just the most repetitive stuff ever." And like local car dealers that I'm friends with, I'm like, "Holy smokes, buddy, that is just a car rolling down the highway." Like that says nothing about your store. That has no differentiation. But you put a ton of flavor on it, and then where I think you differentiate yourself among all car dealers that I know, maybe George Saliba, possible exception, is you had this ambition to transcend short form and attack YouTube and create a successful YouTube long form channel. And then did you know that you were like jumping in the deep end? Did you understand that that is the most ambitious form of content, or were you just naive and like, I can do whatever I want, I have a Mercedes store?
So it was a really funny transition how that came about. We were really heavily focused into Instagram and seeing a lot of success with it in a very short period of time by going into the satire, having a lot of fun. I encourage you to watch our Valentine's Day video from 2 years ago. It exploded. And it was a little bit off color at that level and really went crazy when Durex condoms commented on it. So it gives you an idea as to what that video was about. But, you know, the thing about it, what really was the game changer was when we hit this world of EVs, which, you know, the one thing I really love about George Saliba is he embraced that market head on. Every other dealer was running for the hills, hiding from it. And he's like, sell me your EV. I love that. And I saw one of his posts when his dad was saying, you should get back into that. You should get back into that. And I love that. You know, but the thing is that I stopped being such a powder like a lot of the people that were complaining to me and I was complaining to that was doing nothing about EVs. And I said, you know what, I'm going to embrace this head on. And it was a funny thing about how this came about. My wife had a GLS, and in 2021, we did a COVID road trip in her GLS to California to go visit my in-laws. And my wife and I are talking. She goes, you know, I kind of like those EVs. They're kind of cool, but I'd never buy one. They don't work for our road trips to California. And I said, well, what makes you say that? She goes, well, they wouldn't work, the charging, all that stuff. I'm like, well, there's actually a guy, and this is when I had the epiphany. I said, there's a guy on YouTube that did a video, and he road tripped one from Calgary to California to Los Angeles and back. And she says, no way, I want to see that video right now. And I just saw her light up. I said, I was waiting to see what your reaction was. I said, there is no video. We're going to make that video, because the way that you got reacted and the way that you wanted to watch that video tells me that we have to do this.
Oh, Maz, you have a special brain. Like, you just tested social proof on your wife for like the validation before you did it. You're kind of a genius. I see how you
Well, she was feeling like she got a little bit pumped through the whole thing. But the very next day, I'm sitting there with my business partner and one of the two founders of the company, Perry, and we were chatting about it. And me, Justin, and Perry were chatting. I said, hey, you know, we were going out to Banff to go check out a place for our Christmas party. And I said, hey guys, I got this crazy idea. And I just told them how it came about. And I said, what do you guys think? I know it might be costly. We take this EQS SUV and we take it down there, but I'm going to document the whole thing. I said, honestly, I think what I learned in that trip is probably going to be valuable to bring back to the staff, whether or not it's successful on YouTube, whether or not it sells us cars. I don't know. But you know what? Let's just be fully transparent about this thing. Let's be really objective. Let's embrace this head on. I want to show people, do these things suck as bad as they do? Where's their benefit? Right. Where's their shortcoming? So we documented a 12-part series and drove this thing to California, drove it back. If you ever do watch it, episode 7, we almost run out of charge in the middle of Death Valley. My wife, well, I'll tell you, if you ever
been a little warm.
She wanted to kill me that day. Like, it was pretty bad. You know, with 3 kids and a dog with the roof box on, and it was 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And
you were like EV Clark Griswold. You were
exactly. But the best part about it, though, is that, you know, it was a journey where the viewers got to learn with me. because I didn't know anything about EVs. And suddenly I came out the other side of it being this EV expert, and even hosted a team of engineers that, like the Engineer Society of Calgary.
You filmed yourself driving to California, and suddenly like a team of scientists and engineers descends upon you. Like you made like such an impact.
They want to know.
Get our brightest minds to Calgary as soon as possible. There's one guy who cares.
And Jon, what's so funny is just things you learn along the way. Like, hey, in 2021, we did this with the GLS. We had the roof box on. Well, you quickly realize how dependent EV is on aerodynamics when you have a roof box on your car and you're driving to the Washington Gorge and you got a headwind that you're driving into and you're losing 65% of your charge in like no time, because you really need those aerodynamics. So all these things that you learn, but we challenge the vehicle more as a result. And we didn't realize how many challenges we created for ourselves because we were so naive. But we came out the other side of it and we actually made it. And we were able to convey to consumers what the benefit was, because the inspiration behind this was like, I'm going to stop and charge. But every time I stopped for gas in that GLS 2 years before, my kids, I know you're a parent too, but my kids wanted out of that car. They didn't want to get back in that car. They were in the store. My dog was like doing paces around to do his business. Like, and in most cases, I would blog on this video on this road trip and say, okay, so here I am. I'm back in the car. It's done. It's charged. And where's my family? They're still not in the car. So this is an application that works. So that would really, really expand in my mind. What was really neat about that is the EV road trip was one of our least successful series on our YouTube channel. And it was what springboarded the YouTube channel, but what it was the most successful in. And when I say least successful, I'm talking views and shares and all that stuff.
I already know where you're going with this. Like I say it, but I think I know where you're going to take this.
It was 100% definitive that it sold us the most amount of cars.
I was going to say the same thing, because you basically, what you did, if I was a software company and I needed to build a case study, I would, I would basically take my best client outcome and I'd publish a white paper, and nobody would ever read it, right? I'd like send it at car dealers relentlessly and be like, what do you think of my case study? No one's ever read one of them. But you basically built a consumer case study that had the like valid social proof. And then like, damn it, you're the guy you can talk to. Maz is right there. Like you can ask him about it. It's like so brilliant. And I'm sure your phone rang off the hook about EVs in that area. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know much about Canada. I'd love to visit. Banff, I hear, is beautiful. But it like Calgary is like cowboy oil country, right? It's like oil country like Texas.
Yeah, very much so.
Are you like extremely divergent? You're extremely divergent being successful with EVs in oil country. Or is that counterintuitive?
So we actually were the highest, we had the highest penetration percentage of total sales for EVs that year that we started publishing the EV road trip. And we were, it was shocking because we were, from a percentage of total sales, not total volume, but percentage of total sales, we were exceeding places like Quebec that had heavy duty subsidies for EVs, and BC that had heavy duty subsidies for EVs. So it was, and what was really neat about it, and where it really got me motivated to push into YouTube much more, was there was people, as much as this made me really, really busy, and I can only imagine how crazy it must drive a guy like George Saliba or Doug Horner when people are constantly coming in that have to talk to them. And I was in that predicament myself, and people would come in and say, I want to buy this EV, but I want to talk to Maz first. I have some questions for him. And so I would answer their questions. And one guy said to me, I live 1 minute away from one of the other dealers in town. And I drove past them and all the way here to downtown because I'm going to buy it from you because you guys are the expert. I watched your series, and you're the people that I want to buy from. And that, to me,
that's the biggest compliment in the car business. Is all things equal, they drive to you and buy. So like, I'm the same price as the other guy, but I'll give you a great experience. We'll have a good time. That's the ultimate compliment. If they're, actually it could get better. The other place was less expensive. I'm still going to buy from you. But I think that's kind of the power of what you built, is this like branding. I got to go meet Maz. That guy knows his stuff. I got to go check him out.
Yeah. And in that particular scenario, he didn't even step in those other stores. So it never came down to price. He had made the decision that if he was going to buy this EQ Mercedes-Benz, it was going to be from us. And here it is where other dealers are dying to move these things. And we've got a guy coming to our front door saying, I only want to buy one because I watched your video. And if I buy one, it's going to be only from you guys. And that was huge value. So from there, what happened is I started to recognize that from an organic SEO perspective, for search optimization, we were noticing that we were floating much more to the top on so many other things within the Mercedes-Benz brand. Instead of
the social searches are nearly as valid as Google at this point. They're used to the same extent as Google, perhaps with more intent. I think every day Google cedes market share to not just the AI platforms, but the social searching.
It does. And what's really cool about that is, what drives me crazy is I hate bidding for keywords. I really hate that. Like, I hate being in this auction where you're buying keywords just to get people to click on you, and it's a sponsored ad that's there. Having a strong organic search optimization was really valuable to us, because I'd rather spend the money on what we're creating for YouTube content and have people organically click on us as a result of that, than have somebody click on an ad that says sponsored right above it, right? That I have paid for.
Let me propose this to you, though. Now that you have like fame and profile and authority, you've always had authority, but now it's at a grander scale. What if you did a paid ad campaign where you just simply were telling your story about how you built your YouTube channel? I'm Maz, I'm the general manager. I went on this journey. I did this thing with my wife to drive from Alberta to Canada. Everybody tuned in. They loved it. And then since then, we built this YouTube channel. It has 300,000 followers. If you guys would want to be part of our journey, why don't you come down and visit us sometime? Like, I bet that would be a really novel paid advertisement that could basically leverage your profile in a cool funnel.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I mean, you've got great insight for sure, Jon. And that's probably why, a lot of the people that you represent, they're so successful at what they do. I definitely will look into that for sure.
Because then you're not stuck on specific inventory, and you're, again, not stuck on price. And you could basically, I believe that your customer acquisition cost on that would be less than a third of what your standard CAC would be, because of your profile. And I think that's the next place you start taking this. We're already doing it B2B. We do run paid ads with the influencers for dealer products, and we're getting inbound leads for things that you frankly shouldn't be able to through a meta ad. But when you leverage that content in a strategic paid funnel and then funnel it correctly, that's incredible. But Maz, can you tell me, what do your kids think about their father being famous on YouTube?
Well, it's more local to things, but I've been recognized in multiple places, even in traffic, which is why I don't like driving convertibles. But I'm very personable, and I'll be very happy to chat with people, but I'm also very low key and I'm very private. You will notice that I don't even really, outside of LinkedIn, I really don't have my own social pages. I'm very business focused on that level, but my kids to some degrees think it's cool. My daughters will kind of roll their eyes like, oh God, Dad, are you like a YouTuber? Like, what's going on?
That's a great question to you. Do you consider yourself in show business at all? Do you consider yourself to be a creator? I think that you're in show business as much as I'm in the car business. We both kind of drift between these worlds,
Yeah, I think it's naturally you're going to end up getting to that level. And I think if you go back pre-social media days, if you go way back, and I'm dating myself at this point, when this stuff did not exist. Yeah. Years ago, I remember when I worked for Brian Jessel BMW, and I know Brian Jessel well. He's in Vancouver. They're #1 BMW dealer in the country. He was always in the local paper at some gala, at some event. And I remember going for lunch with him in places, and people would be like, "Oh, hey, Brian, how are you?" And he doesn't know them, but they recognize it in the paper. And so ultimately, you have to, if you're branding yourself, you have to appreciate the fact that that's going to come with. It's going to come along with it. And it's not a terrible thing. I think it would be a difficult thing if you did something that was really offensive to somebody, and then they're coming at you going, "You're that guy," Yeah. But I think from a business perspective, it's a great way to kind of get the right conversation started, and it brands things further. I mean, my initiative behind this whole thing, and the reason why our YouTube channel is the name of our dealership, was purely to be able to have our brand recognition and to come out of the crowd of all these Mercedes-Benz dealers, especially in the heavily crowded market that we're in. And that was my initiative behind it. And that's kind of how it turned into, you know, a drag race channel, which is where our highest views are. And that was an interesting story in itself, because what happened is we started out we shot a video with a G-Wagon, and I had this concept where I wanted to do dealer debates, right? Because, you know, you call other dealers, and I'm sure George and Doug would tell you the same thing, but you call other dealers and you end up on the phone with them. You know, we like to talk in this business. That's why we're good at what we do. Right? But you end up on the phone with them for far longer than you should. Right. And so, but if they're interesting conversations, and conversations, honestly, that people would probably love to be a fly on the wall and hear, they're good things. And when you're talking to somebody, particularly like if I'm calling another dealer because I've got a BMW in my, you know, that I'm appraising, I don't understand what the car is worth because it's so new. When you're calling another dealer, you're having those conversations, and then all of a sudden, how's business going? Oh yeah, they're doing this. Oh, you have this, and you're kind of trading trade secrets at that level. And then you start to debate your products to some degree and what your key advantages are. And I thought, you know what? Well, how cool would it be on a YouTube channel if you had a dealer debate like that? And I said, well, what would be even cooler than that? Because people probably don't want to watch a couple of car guys sitting around chatting, right? What would be cooler is, what if we did it something to some degree of what some of these successful channels have had out there? You know, you got like the Throttle Houses, and you've got like Top Gear and all these different channels, and you have it turn into a drag race. And you know, if your car is really better than mine, then it should be faster than mine on this drag strip. And then, you know, there's banter in between, which will make it even more fun. And at the end, you have a debrief where you kind of banter each other a bit more. But what's fun is that you're each defending your own brand, right? And you are to some degree selling it, but at the same time, there's an objective angle to it because you're actually inviting somebody on there that's opposing it. And so,
you know what, Maz, like, I am so enamored by what you're describing. Like, your understanding of social media and marketing is so progressive compared to any corporate OEM, any large publicly traded or just regional aggregated dealer group in the United States. Your intuition for this and how to make something palatable to the consumer that they would actually watch. And then what's in it for you? Like, what are you getting out of this? What is all of this effort for? You understand that in a way that literally no other dealer in America gets. You know who's understanding it right now is like the paradigm. It's the salespeople on the floor. It's like right now the paradigm is these 26-year-olds are making TikTok videos and they're accidentally building businesses within the four walls of the car dealership. And the owner's like, what the hell do I do with this kid? I have a famous kid on the sales floor. And like, how do I manage a famous kid? You know what it's like managing a rock star. Now you have to manage a celebrity. So I think that you are such a rare example of somebody who's in a position of authority, in a position of power. And, you know, it's a Mercedes store, which is the best, right? And then you are like enacting this vision with such strategy. I mean, it's not to say like that your talent is wasted, because that's an immense opportunity running a Mercedes store, something I've never sniffed. But like, there is no dealer group in the country that has this understanding that you do. None. And it's like, should Maz be the CEO, like the CEO of like AutoNation? Should he just be like running the playbook there? You know, because you really have this super interesting take on the world.
Well, I appreciate that for sure. I mean, we got really fortunate. We partnered up with Squared Media. The guy that owns that, his name is Vlad. You'd probably love to talk to him too. He's got great insight. He's got a great story himself. But, you know, for the longest time, I had a lot of these ideas to want to do things like this. But, you know, you can have the concept, but the concept doesn't work until you have the right vehicle to take you there. And so we were lucky that we were able to partner up with them. And you know, I've sent him messages at 4 o'clock in the morning and, you know, at 11 o'clock at night with just these crazy epiphanies that I have. And I've driven him crazy. And our fixed operations manager, Chris, is very heavily involved with it. Also a big guy that follows YouTube, has some great ideas. And so, and then, you know, my business partner, Justin, and our marketing manager, Stuart. And so we have this like chat group, and I'm constantly blowing up their phone to the point that they're having to mute their chat group because I've got all these different ideas, and I don't blame them. Right. But, you know, the reality is that you need a really good team to be able to help you. And just like you have a great team over there with what you're doing, but you need a really great team to be able to help you execute these things, because we had really good ideas before, really good social media ideas. We never had the vessel or the vehicle to get us there. We once did a video with if you remember Zipcar or Car2Go. Do you know what Car2Go is? We had Car2Go here. So we did one time where we took an AMG GT and we deckled it to look like it was a Car2Go, and we called it AMG to go. So instead of smart cars and CLAs and GLAs, and so we were trying to punk people to make it look like that's what it was. We had a lot guy on a skateboard roll up, and he taps his phone and has this $200,000 car and drives off. We didn't film that properly. We didn't capture it properly, and it failed. And it was a great concept. And it's funny because when I've talked to, like Vlad today, he's like, man, if I knew you guys back then, I could have made this go extremely viral.
Yeah, you have great creative ideas. And I feel like you're like me, where you and I had, we ran car dealerships, and like we have this process like nailed, we're fluent in it. But then you just get like so jacked up about a creative idea. Like, I will tell you, I made no money when I called private equity guy and said, Lane Kiffin just like left Ole Miss and he went to LSU, and here's a joke we can make about it, and da 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 da. And then he runs up and records it, and we post it in the minute, and we're getting like shared by ESPN. Like, that hits me in a place that money never could. Like bringing creativity to fruition is so exciting. And I think the two of us are very blessed where we get to have careers that are, nice incomes or whatever that is. We have a nice life for our family, but also we get to like live in that group chat you're describing, throwing ideas against the wall, and then suddenly they're like coming to life. And I hope that you and I get to do that forever.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I tell people all the time, especially young generation, I say, just follow your passions. Do the things that are fun to you. When it starts to feel like work, that's probably when you should think about quitting. Right. Yeah. Because, it has to be something that's fun and engaging. And there's always struggles with what you do on every day. And it should be, because it's no different than your work could be like your marriage. It could be like any other relationship that you end up having. You're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. But realistically, the passion should never waver. Right. You should always feel strong about it and love what you're doing. And that's kind of what the whole thing happened with buying the private airport and the runway. It was a passion project.
Why do you own a private airport and a runway? Just to have the drag racing?
So that goes back to the whole drag racing other dealers for a debate purpose. So it started that we did a video with a Land Rover dealer, and we did a G-Wagon and a Defender V8, and we did drifting on a frozen lake. We did an uphill climb. We did a tug of war, and we put it up there on our YouTube channel, and it blew up, 120,000 views in no time, and it was just taking off like crazy. We're like, wow, we got to do this again. So I come up with this other concept. I'm like, well, okay, let's take a hybrid S-Class. Let's take a gas S-Class. Let's take an electric EQS, and let's do the same thing. And we ended up stumbling on this private airport, and they were kind enough to let us rent the airport in the middle of January. Right. So it was rage tests, everything that was involved. And we learned really quickly that a 41-minute video on YouTube for something like that is probably too long, but there was too much content we were trying to cover. But it still did better than we had expected it to do. So we came back again and rented it and did another one. And then at one point, it was, I think on like the third one we were there, I turned to my business partner and I said, look, we got to go back and talk to Stephen and Perry, the founders. We got to buy this place because it was up for sale. And I said, if they sell it, we don't have a place to do this anymore. And this is something that we need to do all the time. There's too many cars. Like we might have, 10 different models, but each one of those models has anywhere from 4 to 10 competitors. And we can drag race up to 3 vehicles at a time. This is going to be an ongoing show that we're going to end up doing. And,
how do you, with this media vision and what you're building, I mean, you're going to get, platform revenue off of YouTube, and, maybe media covers some expenses, and then basically the Mercedes sales justify everything you're doing, right? Is the media demand ever going to outpace what like is available at a Mercedes dealership? Are you going to have to build an auto mall with multiple brands, or like, how do you basically convert all of this opportunity? What does that look like?
So I think the best way to convert all this opportunity would probably be going down the path of, pre-owned, unique, specialty, particularly in luxury, right? That's where you can diversify a lot more. We've started to stock and receive on trade-in a lot more luxurious and exotic vehicles. Like we just sold an Aston Martin from here, and a really low mileage Porsche. And I feel like, that's where the diversification takes place. I think it's also at the same time, being a franchise Mercedes-Benz dealer can also be a bit of a limiting factor, because of course, as a franchise Mercedes-Benz dealer, as much as it might be great to have that prestige of that brand there with you, if you're looking to diversify beyond that brand, well, the franchise is going to frown upon it, right?
Yeah.
So you almost need to be representing multiple brands, and then your social media platform would have to be representative of that dealer group. But then again, no one's clicking on a dealer group. Like nobody's going ahead to say, I want to watch the Auto Nation channel. Like,
yeah, you definitely have a little bit of, a fork in the road ahead of you, where it's like, would you be as successful if the name of the channel was like Calgary, car business or something like that? But it still needs to funnel back to consumer demand for vehicle purchases. And man, I think that you are a bit of like a Steven Spielberg with an aptitude for kind of like business marketing. You have some weird Steve Jobs intuition that like you clearly is playing out before everyone. And I'm really excited to follow along with your journey, because we're in such novel territory. It's not that there's no rules, but you're controlling your own demand. You have like the Harry Potter wand, and you're just like summoning buyers to come into your store. So I can't wait to see how far you take this. And I'm honestly very honored to like even know you, because I think that the sort of what you're building on the ground, like you didn't ask anybody's permission. You just went ahead and like built something incredible. And now it's like probably a multi-million,
We asked for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Never permission.
That's how all great things happen. If you went and explained this vision to somebody at like Toyota or Honda, they would like tell you why it can't happen. Everybody will always tell you why this won't work. And you just like did it. And then, now they like it. Now that has 300,000 followers on YouTube. But man, I am so proud of you. I really am. I think you're like the greatest example of modern car business.
I was also really, like you said, if you pitched this to Toyota or Honda, they probably wouldn't love it as much. But, Stephen and Perry, the founders of the company, they're also very progressive that way. And because we're small enough, we can pivot quickly. They're very supportive. And I think I've probably driven them crazy enough over the years with all my different crazy ideas that they actually do take the time to really listen to all of them. And, they're not all perfect, but there's always something that could really work in there. And that's been, it's really important to have that support, because if you don't have that support, no one's going to really carry you through, right? Whether it be from above or below, it has to flow like a river. And that's
how much confidence and conviction do you have in your intuition for what works in media right now? Do you think that you have as good a media intuition as you do as a car guy? Do you think you're there? Because you're like, a 41-minute video on YouTube, that'll never, I know how to hook them now. Like you have this gut instinct in the fashion you probably do when you're looking at a 2010 4Runner with 80,000 miles a year, that's worth $14,000.
I feel like if where I can be successful in it is if I in my group of people and in our chat, if I would tell them the concept, and if it's something that's satire, if you laugh, then I know that it's probably got some merit. If I tell you the concept and you get really excited and I see your eyes light up and go around, I know that it's got some merit. If all of a sudden,
the same way about my internal team, when I have a harebrained idea and I start pitching it to them, and they're like, "We've heard this one before." But if they get excited, I'm like, okay, I'll be psychotic along with them.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you have to really feed off of your audience, and your audience starts locally first with your support network. And then from there, you're like, okay, let's develop this together. Because if they don't believe in it, they're not going to chase it with the same passion that you will. And if they don't chase it with the same passion that you will, then you're not going to have this, amazing product in the end, because it's just going to, you can tell that the people that were just there because they had to be there, and you can tell the people that are there because they want to be there. I mean, we've had multiple.
I think
people
your peer network, it's crucial for your peer network to have people above you as well. Like you said, that your owners are in that chat from time to time. Like I run my dumb ideas past people that are more successful than me as well. And like they, you know, I usually gauge it with them too.
Yeah. And you know what, you can tell really quickly, and I'm sure being in the same position, you can tell really quickly when they're tuning you out. And when you're tuning
Right.
you out, I take that as a note at that point. It's taken me a long time to develop that personally. But when somebody's tuning me out and I notice that they're tuning me out, I know I'm not telling them something that's interesting. And at that point, I stop myself. And I'm like, you know what? If it's not interesting to this person, how am I going to get that message across to a whole bunch of people that are scrolling through, that are giving me 3 seconds to basically audition for them so that they can keep watching for another 15.
You're a media guy, Maz. You have a media brain. If you were born in LA, brother, you would have been like making feature films. But I do want to say thank you for hopping on today and talking to me. I think that, you know, you're an incredible example of what, you know, modern operators can do. And I'm really inspired by you. And it's cool to become a buddy of yours, and let everybody know where they can find you on YouTube and how they can visit your dealership. And I'll do my best trying to give you strategic collaborations, because I think rooting on your mission and entrepreneurial journey is like the most important thing everybody else in the car business can be doing, is cheering on operators that are doing novel, cool things.
And I appreciate that, Jon. And I just wanted to say, I love what you're doing. You know, credit back to you. I love what you're doing, and I love particularly what you've done with working with, you know, Doug Horner and with George Saliba, because, you know, for the longest time growing up in this industry, it wasn't always something that people were necessarily proud of. They weren't coming home, you know, or they weren't coming home. A girl wasn't coming home to say, or your daughter wouldn't come home and say, "Hey, I'm sorry." I just got to get rid of that.
I'm with you. It was an industry that was scoffed at. It was everybody's second choice. I went to college. I remember it was detrimental when I got to the sales floor. Everybody hated that I went to college. You know, and probably for the first 4 years, you know, when my buddies were working at Deloitte and PwC and they were, you know, graduating law school or med school, and I'm like, you know, writing up a deal at a Toyota store in Tyson's Corner, I was like, did I make the right choice? But it's seemingly...
You know, and that's the one thing that I wanted to touch on just before we kind of wrap this up. Before I got interrupted with that phone ringing, you know, if your daughter, and I'm sorry about that, it should not be doing this right now.
No, you're good. Go for it, brother. We're lucky to have you.
So, you know, the biggest thing that I would say, you know, is that if your daughter came home today and told you that she's dating a guy, I'm so sorry about this. I'm going to just get rid of this once and for all.
No, go for it. I put that.
I got rid of it. I was punching in the wrong code. But no, if your daughter came home today and said to you, "Hey, listen, Jon, I just met this guy and he's a car salesman," right?
You know what? I feel like I could guide a car salesman. My daughter brings home a car salesman. I feel like I could help that kid like conquer the world.
But you can now, and the reality is because your opinion of that industry has really changed because of guys like George Saliba and Doug Horner, and you know, they've really helped to you know, bring to the surface the right type of attention to that industry. And this industry has really had, you know, a bad head nailed to it for a long time because of a lot of bad actors over the years. So it was justified at one point. But, you know, realistically, there's a lot of people in a lot of other industries that don't necessarily have the same.
Buddy, my first job out of college was selling wine to grocery stores. You've never seen scumbag behavior like that. Ripping down prices, hiding bottles. It was terrible.
Absolutely. And you know what? I saw George had a post the other day where, you know, a guy was talking to him and he's like, you know, a lot of dealers are shady and they're not very forthcoming. And he's like, I'm not that guy. And you know what? The reality is we've never been those people either. You know, we killed dealer fees about a decade ago because I was like, you know what? There is no way, shape, or form that I'm going to tax people, like actually tax people to do business with me. Like, at what point did I feel that it was right for me to say to you, "Hey, Jon, you're going to buy this car from me, and for $500, I'll let you buy this car from me"? No,
you're bucking the system. You're making content and killing dealer fees. The price is the price. It's that easy, dude. I knew a guy local to me here that wanted to cut dealer fees. for the sake of content. He thought it'd be a content hack, and kind of the thesis you just stated as well. And I think it is a content hack. There's a group in Alabama. I'm cautious to say it because I might say the wrong group, but they just cut dealer fees and it's playing on social media. Old cars, low miles is a hack, and cutting dealer fees is a views hack as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think like, I just wanted to kind of give you that shout out and say, keep doing it, what you're doing and how, you're working with, and shout out to Doug Horner and to George Saliba, because you know what, you guys make me feel good about what I do every day, make my salespeople feel good about what they do every single day. And for an industry as a whole, it's what they should all aspire to be. Full transparency. And the reason why we're able to embrace the social media the way that we were, just like Doug and George do, is because we're objective. We did that EV road trip because we weren't trying to sell you an EV. We wanted to learn about it as much as you did. And we were going to either prove one of two things. These things absolutely suck, or they work for some people, right? And we were able to figure that out on our own, right? And we're doing these drag races on our channel. And there's sometimes where we have a full shutout. And I actually really do like those episodes when I lose on every single race. And I get made fun of at the end for losing on every single race. But you know what? That's okay. Number one, somebody's not going to buy a vehicle because it won a drag race. Let's be honest with what it is. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's more valuable to me for people to see that episode and say, you know what? These guys aren't trying to sell me a story. They're not trying to make their car look faster than what it is. These guys are the real deal. And that's more important to me, because that's the message that we've been trying to get out for years, is that we're going to tell you exactly how it is. You come in and tell me, hey, Maz, I'm looking at this SUV, and you tell me how many kids you got. I'm going to tell you, hey, this probably isn't going to work for you, Jon. You should look at this one, right? Dude, and I need you to know that I'm being sincere.
Yeah, I think you may have quite an operation going on up there. I think I don't know, I'm not a money guy, but I would just be building around this flywheel that you have made. I would go as many luxury used cars as possible, the track experience. I think what in my mind, value that I can provide to you, I'm like, how can I get other influencers at Maz's track in Alberta? How can I get him PE guy? How can I get, like it would just play so well. It could become the biggest thing ever. But dude, I am so thankful for you hopping on here. I'm rooting on your journey. And thanks so much, Maz. You're the man.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much, Jon. Talk to you later.